The Paterson, New Jersey Fire Department has new policies as a direct result of a line-of-duty death there. Firefighters had pulled lines into a building with no fire showing. But those conditions changed quickly, killing one of Paterson's first responders.
How could we get to him? Where could he be? He's got to be outside. This isn't happening. It's a helpless feeling.
All I knew was what was going on right in front of me inside that building. John was gone, and we were trying to find him. I didn't think it could ever happen to one of us, but it could. It could happen to anybody.
This was more than a fire, it was a tragedy the Paterson, New Jersey Fire Department will remember for a long time. An entire city block was lost, but that fire seemed minor compared to the devastating loss of one of their brothers. The circumstances surrounding John Nicosia's death were unusual, and to some extent will remain a mystery forever. But firefighters in Paterson knew they did everything in their power to save him. The fire began at 5:43 on the morning of January 17, 1991. A report of smoke showing in a major shopping area downtown brought first responders to the scene quickly. Engine Company 4 of the Paterson Fire Department arrived within minutes.
And as we rolled up on the scene, there was nothing visible. Could not locate that smoke that we had seen earlier. We made a left-hand turn onto Van Houten Street to position the apparatus in front of a hydrant at that location. At that time, the battalion continued up Main Street and parked opposite a store there called the Underground 2, where there was a police officer standing and an exterior alarm was sounding.
Deputy Chief Joe Pellegrino arrived at 5:59 and assumed command. 2 doors down from the Underground 2 store, Captain Muccio noticed smoke coming out of a chimney. He also observed a wood-burning smell.
At that point, I felt it was important now to tie into the hydrant at the corner there, because at this point I felt something was wrong here, the fact that we smelled wood burning. I had one of my men begin to tie our front sleeve into the hydrant, and I walked up the street with the battalion chief to this Underground 2 clothing store. We had an audible burglar alarm sounding and a mesh roll-top gate down over the front of the store. We looked in through there. It was dark, and it appeared to me that the windows were discolored or fogged in some fashion. I walked back to my apparatus, got a light, brought it back, shined it into the window of the store, and we in fact observed that the windows were dark and it was clouded and there was smoke in the store. So at this time we realized now that we have a fire in the store.
Truck 2 used hydraulic bolt cutters to cut the locks off of the gate, while firefighters from Engine Company 4 deployed an 1 3/4 inch line to the front of the building. Firefighters John Nicosia, Michael DeLucia, and Richard Hoffman donned their masks, charged the lines, and advanced into the store with Captain Muccio.
We advanced the line in side by side with Engine Company 7, and we were experiencing some heat above us. We could hear light bulbs breaking. You could hear the crackling of the fire. Could not see any visual fire. At this point, I asked the crew if they thought we could move in a little further, attempt to get deeper into the store, see if we could locate the seat of the fire. And we got an affirmative, and we moved forward in the store. At this point, the firefighter Hoffman and Nicosia said they were seeing some visible fire on the ceiling area, and they were directing the stream at that particular point.
While firefighters were inside, Deputy Chief Joe Pellegrino remained outside evaluating the changing conditions.
First 2 lines went in, and we started to see a little bit more smoke. And I backed up a little bit to look at the whole building, and I saw a little smoke coming out of the 2nd floor of the building next door. And I immediately called for a second alarm.
Firefighters encountered a number of hazards inside the store. Clothing racks were everywhere.
One of the things that gave us a lot of problems were the clothing racks, because you try to crawl, you can't crawl under them, so they were all being knocked down, and then you had to climb over them, through them.
And that really was a problem. Otherwise, if there weren't that many clothes racks, we might have had a straighter shot to get towards the back of the store.
I was scared in there. It was scary. On the way in, me and John, you could talk somewhat if you yell loud enough through your mask. And on the way in there, we had yelling back and forth that it was a little scary. I mean, it was dark. The smoke was down to the floor. Something to the effect where, you know, be careful. You know, this is a little scary in here. You know, watch ourselves.
After hearing the fire going across the ceiling, Captain Muccio exited the building and suggested a 2 1/2 inch line be put on the front of the building in the event of a flashover. At that point, Firefighter Nicosia exited the store because of low air. He changed his air bottle, and then he and Captain Muccio deployed the 2 1/2 inch line.
I redonned my mask and went back into the building. Came upon my crew. They were still working in the same position. It's still extremely heavy smoke condition. And again, we could hear the fire above us. To give him point, Firefighter Hoffman, who was second on the line, his SCBA low air warning went off. He indicated to me he was leaving the building. I acknowledged him. He passed to my right and went out through the building. At this point, I moved up, and it was myself and Firefighter Nicosia. The conditions, when I say smoky, were extremely heavy to the point where we couldn't see the line on the floor. My tank then went off, indicating low air. I advised Firefighter Nicosia that I was going out, my tank was low, and I turned to exit and I lost the line. I then started to slide I stopped in the position I was in and started to slide my foot across the floor to my right where I knew the line should be, and located it with my foot and grabbed onto it and did a hand over hand crawl out of the building. At that point, Firefighter Nicosia was now coming in, who was originally my hydrant man, was going in on the line. I came outside and went to change my air bottle.
While Captain Muccio was changing his air bottle, the front of the store, 2 doors down from the underground to the store the firefighters were in, blew completely out. All men were ordered to vacate the building.
At this point, one of my men turned to me and asked me where was Firefighter Nicosia. And I really didn't dawn on me what he was saying. And he asked me again, where is Firefighter Nicosia? And I said, what do you mean? He said, where is he? I said, didn't he come out? And another man said, well, I thought I saw him outside. At this point, we did an immediate check of the vicinity of our apparatus to see if he was there changing his tank or removing his tank.
I ran into Captain Muccio and happened to ask him, you know, where's John? Where's John at? And we didn't really know by that time. I mean, things got a little confusing, and then the fire got totally out of control. I think it all happened within a matter of minutes.
Well, the captain had already come out about maybe 20 minutes. He came out to change his tank. He told me to get some bottles ready, because the other guys would be coming out shortly to change tanks, have everything ready for him. He went back in. Then Firefighter Richie Hoffman came back out. He told me that I changed his tank on his back for him, so it would be a lot faster. And he said that John's going to be needed a tank soon. So I figured I had 2 more tanks there. I had enough. John never came out for a tank.
Firefighters made an immediate head count, but were unable to locate Firefighter Nicosia. A 3rd alarm was sounded, and a search and rescue operation was put into effect instantly.
Our main attack was to try to get on the 1st floor to search for the missing firefighter. We felt it was still early enough to get into the building. Like I said, there was a tremendous amount of fire in the middle of the store, and it was coming down, so we figured by venting we'd be able to lift where we could get in, but it didn't work that way.
Immediately, we redonned our SCBAs and started to enter the building on a search situation. As I entered the building, I was able to feel extreme heat right on the earlobes, and we went to our bellies and crawled in on the line, which was my line, Engine 4's line, up to the point where it had been left, where we assumed we were going to find Firefighter Nicosia. We were unable to locate him at the nozzle.
I don't know how many searches were made. A lot of people were in that building, and we did everything humanly possible to find out where he was. We couldn't hear his bell going off air low bell. Usually that sounds. We couldn't hear that. You couldn't hear them yelling. Guys were taking off their masks, screaming at the top of their lungs, just trying to get some sort of indication of where he might be, and there was just silence from him. We didn't hear anything.
Myself and then one of the men from the truck, we searched the area in the immediate vicinity of the nozzle. There was many clothing racks in the store that were dumped over, and this was my concern that he may be under one of these racks. I did the best I could to move the clothing, which were heavy winter jackets, and search the immediate vicinity. I know companies searched the other wall. We were on the left side of the store, and I know they went up the right side and checked that and swept that several times. And it was, my way was that it could have been anything. The racks could have fell on them. I understood there were stairwells that we were not aware of directly behind us that they could have went down. Could have been anywhere in the store. These stores are extremely deep.
Along with racks of clothing, firefighters had to contend with other confusing factors inside the store.
There was another thing that I think that might have been disorienting to us as firefighters was there was mirrors on the walls. I think scattered maybe every 8 or 10 feet, and they ran from the floor to the ceiling and maybe 3 foot wide. And I remember encountering one of the mirrors, so I shined my light and it reflected. So this may have been a contributing factor that Firefighter Nicosia may have seen himself, thinking it was another fireman, or may have disoriented in some fashion.
The crew experienced high heat and burns to the neck and ears and had to leave the building due to the severity of the conditions.
And at that point, when the men come out with the burns, we had to, as difficult a situation as it was, we had to make a determination of what to do from there. We had to call off the interior search, and we had to back the men out, but we didn't give up. We went through the plate glass windows. We tried to get on the outside, from the outside as far as we could inside. We tried to go through the cellar. We brought some heavy tools over to break the cement, which held the metal cellar door in place. But when we got down into the pit, there was a heavy metal door locked, and there was a lot of steam down there, so we could not get in that way.
I was approached by one chief, Tasker. We tried to make one final try for him. He asked me to pick one other guy, and he himself would come and we were going to tie ourselves over ropes and go through the basement from the sidewalk. Unfortunately, when we got all set up, there was a large steam explosion, and that was it.
It was frantic. I mean, people were going absolutely berserk. Guys were beside themselves. You get to the point where you don't know what to do anymore. I mean, everybody hit it was a thing that I never felt before in my entire life. I mean, you get 5 or 6 apparatuses with these air horns going at the same time for the last call, just to give him, if he was still conscious in there, to give him some idea of where we might be. It was an eerie feeling. I mean, it was like something out of a movie, but you couldn't make a movie this bad. I mean, it was unbelievable.
The fire continued to spread and grew rapidly.
At that point, Chief Forbes called the general alarm, mutual aid, and the fire started to progress. We still attempted to do whatever we could for John, but the fire was really getting out of hand now, and now there was fire starting to come out of the upper floors, and we went down and we cut all the grates of the stores next door because we knew eventually we were going to have to get in them.
At 7:20 a.m., Chief of the Department John Morrow arrived and assumed command.
Upon my arrival at the scene, I relieved Assistant Chief Joseph Forbes, who had been covering the fire. He informed me of the progress made. The mutual aid companies had been called in. We now were dealing with a huge fire that was spreading from the front of the building to the rear, all the way to the rear street behind to Washington Street, and was threatening the buildings alongside, the exposure buildings that were attached. At this particular point in time, the decision was made to mount an exterior attack only.
As mutual aid companies poured in to assist in controlling the blaze, firefighters directly involved in the search for Firefighter Nicosia were directed to return to quarters.
Our FMBA made contact with an incident stress team to come down and talk to us. And the fellow came down here to the firehouse and spoke to us about some of the things that we may be experiencing in the very near future, in the next hour, in the next couple of days, or next couple of weeks or months. I found this, over a period of time, these people to be extremely helpful to us. It was good to be able to talk to somebody that had been through something like this, knew what to expect, could give us some insight, and would listen to anything we had to say. And it was extremely helpful, this incident team. And I even commented to the chief that this is something that should be brought out in the fire service. A lot of people say we don't need this type of thing. Well, I've been through it, and I think they're invaluable. And we made a lot of good friends with it, and it's been very helpful because we did have some people that were experiencing some emotional problems.
Came back to our quarters, and we sat for a while, and we spoke to one of the men from the stress team. Then we went back to the fire. Our shift was already over, so it was our decision to go back, and we just helped out any way we could.
The fire continued to build and spread across the street to the next block. Firefighters continued to fight heavy fire until the following morning. Over 50 mutual aid companies responded before the fire was extinguished. But it was 3 days before firefighters located the body of John Nicosia.
The first 2 days, I didn't want to be involved in the search. I didn't want to come across them. I thought it was going to be a fast thing. Just out of, things in the past that happened to other departments, you find they get them pretty quick. But after the 2 days, it was just I was just so upset we couldn't find him, and it was really tearing you down mentally. I imagine what his family was going through at the time. And, you want your son out of there. We wanted our friend out of there.
Firefighters searched 4 days in the rubble before his body was found. Firefighter Henke recalls noticing a hole in the corner of the building.
I slid down into the hole, and I proceeded to my right, and I noticed the Scott tank laying there, and I noticed his jacket, the turnout. At that point, I didn't want to see him anymore because I'm, it was a personal friend of mine, and I didn't want to see him that way. I wanted to remember him, how I know him. So I came back out of the hole and gave it to the captain and told him he's down there. I said, do what you have to do, and I proceeded out of there. I just didn't want to, be right there at the time when they were going to get him ready to come out.
No one will ever know for sure how John Nicosia ended up in the basement of the building. After talking with the critical incident stress team, firefighters decided they would be the ones to carry out the body of their friend and colleague.
The incident stress guy thought it might be a good idea. He didn't think, we thought it was a good idea. We wanted to carry him out, and he says, if that's what you feel, to do it. To carry him out, that'll help you down the road, because if somebody else got him out of there, and in years from now, you might always kick yourself saying, I should have been the one, I should have carried him out, So we decided as a company, Engine Company 4 and Truck Company 2, to carry him out. So that's what we did.
As the Paterson Fire Department continues to mourn the loss of John Nicosia, changes are being implemented to prevent tragedies in the future.
But perhaps the most significant realization of limitation was that the department did not utilize the services of a motion detector, proximity alert system device. We are now in the process of outfitting every firefighter, not just the Scott Air Packs, but every firefighter that is sworn into the Paterson Fire Department will have one. He will be responsible for this. It will be the responsibility of his captain to make sure that at roll call, all personnel present a functional device.
See, the thing that scares me the most about this thing that happened to John is that I wouldn't learn anything from this. I would hate for him to die in vain for nothing. I mean, I want to get everything possible that could be good out of this. I don't know what could be good, but if there's something, I want to know it. Maybe not to worry about all the little stupid things that happen to you during the day, to worry about things that are important, your family, your friends, your health. Forget about all those stupid things. I think your life is the most important. You protect it with everything you can. You don't give it up.
We will learn some lessons, such as a little bit more control, maybe the use of lifelines in the interior of the building when we have fires like this. In an ordinary structure fire, lifeline probably is going to get in our way more than it's going to help us. But in warehouses and in factories and in large stores, I think a lifeline, a rope, a half-inch or a three-quarter-inch rope into the interior of the building so that we can follow the rope out.
Never leave the line. You come in with a line, you go out with a line.
The rapidly changing conditions upon arrival in Paterson surprised firefighters and has promoted changes in department procedures. Coming up on Second Alarm, we'll go to nearby Brooklyn, New York, where conditions at another block-long fire presented themselves immediately.
And Dr. Bill Kramer of the University of Cincinnati has this month's college questions.
And we'll go to Baltimore County, Maryland for Operation Desert Stump.
It's time now.